This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices, the podcast. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma. I'm the Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Powis, and I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering.
Oh my gosh, here we are, the penultimate episode of season 7. Yes, the second to last episode of season 7. And in this particular episode, Emily, you bring us a fantastic conversation of what the topic is right now, which is wrapping it up and getting out of here. This is what are you calling it? The senior send-off?
Yeah, senior send-off. Yeah, so we had quite a big episode. I polled all of our VSA seniors and pretty much everyone wanted to be a part of the episode. So I talked with Alex, Chris, Gus, Mark, Nick, Steven, and Matthew. And we just talked about what our experience was at USC, reflected back on our time. I mean, a lot of us have known each other since first week of freshman year. So it's a really good chance to reconnect with them and kind of see like where they've all grown. We talk highs, lows. Yeah, it was a very emotional experience actually for us. And I think that like our listeners will probably see that.
Yeah, I mean, your class, to give a little bit of perspective, is the class that started before the pandemic. Then you went into the pandemic, and then you came out of the pandemic and then back. So basically you had your first year on campus or part of your first year?
We had first year and part of second year on campus.
Got it. So you had your whole first year on campus, part of your second year on campus went away. We're not here for junior year at all. And then in your senior year came back, and the beginning of senior year was a little weird. It was kind of like kind of here, kind of there. Yeah. And this last semester has been pretty much fully back on. But it's weird because, I mean, I don't, maybe this is what you're about to talk about, but maybe you guys know, you're the only ones that would actually know this because you had your whole first year here, is that it's everything changed. Not to put a negative spin on it, because I don't think it's negative. I just think it's interesting that, for lack of a better term, we've talked about this as a group before, the kind of the student life culture is a little odd because it doesn't have its usuals. Like people don't have their usual like place that they go to lunch. They don't have their usual place that they hang out. Like they don't have their usual vibe of walking through campus that they've established over a year or two. Everyone's kind of feeling it out and not knowing what happens. I mean, is that kind of interesting to you guys as seniors?
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing for us is like, especially for me, is like a lot of the places I hung out a lot my freshman year have been like reconverted into other spaces. And they've been like replaced with bigger and better things, but it loses some of that sentimental component for me. Like, especially Cafe 84, like I know you knew it when it was a dining hall, but for me, it was like a really big Starbucks. And I would always study there with my friends. I have like lots of memories of very, very late nights in Cafe 84. And then now it's like I think they do the flu vaccine there. So
right.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to see how those spaces have changed.
Yeah. And that's actually not related to, no, well, the vaccine clinic probably is related to it, but moving that place out of being a dining hall was, or a big Starbucks was part of the plan anyway. Like, yeah, it's just weird that these things happen because you think like, oh my God, it's all gone now. But because changes occurred in the pandemic that were not related to the pandemic.
Yeah, like for example, like the Baum Family Makerspace. Like people always ask me about my experience with it, but it opened in the pandemic. So I did a lot of stuff in the equivalent of the makerspace that was not as nice when I was a freshman and sophomore. And then now I'm like in the BME specific labs. So I've kind of missed out on the makerspace. But a lot of clubs like do experience that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, my favorite thing is coming back from the pandemic and coming onto campus. And I remember seeing a whole new building that I didn't know was even going to be built. I was telling this to some parents the other day, like the track. Have you seen the track building?
Yeah, that was really shocking.
Right, because you go down 34th or whatever the street is. Why am I blanking on it? McClintock. You go down McClintock, and also you're like, where did this building come from? And it's a beautiful building, and it looks like it's been there forever. But you're like, that was not there prior to the pandemic.
And now that I think about it, that used to be such a big deal to me, but I haven't thought about it in like 6 months now.
Because you're used to it now. Yeah. It's amazing to me. You're now going to start being like the other alumni we talked to that are like, I remember when this wasn't here, and you start like going back to your old times. Well, before we dive into this particular episode, and I'm sorry for making the intro longer than it should be. We just a note, we just wrapped up all of our admitted student events. We had 7 events called Explore USC, which are full day admitted student events on campus. We had 1 weekend event called our admitted student day. So 8 different on-campus events. We had about 15 different off-campus events, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, New York, Boston, Philly, DC, South Florida, Atlanta, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Hawaii, Honolulu. We were everywhere over the last couple of weeks, and I'm exhausted. I literally came home yesterday from our last event, like passed out on my couch. And I can't remember the last time I've ever done that. I was basically a great help to my family here, where I just was like completely zonked out on the couch for no apparent reason. And it's exciting to see our incoming class start to take shape. As of this recording, we already have 318 students that have submitted their deposits. We got the whole rest of 5-6 more days before this goes through. So we're definitely bringing in our class, and it's looking really good. An incredibly diverse group of students from lots of different areas across all of our different programs. Everything is going in the direction that I wanted it to go. And that's important, because that's kind of what my job's based on. So I feel good about submitting my enrollment reports to the dean saying, hey, look, see, this is what we thought we would do. And I think that's where we're going. So that's nice. Math works sometimes, which is nice. I've had so much fun meeting with so many people that have just been, email names, lots of emails back and forth, lots of phone calls, and actually seeing people, shaking hands and talking to people in their in-person events has been a game changer. Talking about coming back from the pandemic, it was our first in-person event since February, March of 2020. So this is a big deal to me, and my staff has had a really great time meeting with people as well, and all the travel that we've been doing. I've been in airports, which is weird. Also, why I haven't been around for some of the last recordings is because I've been traveling or doing on-campus events. And so it's a really cool kind of end to the season, and I'm excited to bring everybody in. And when we bring in people like this, and we're doing this kind of celebration of the incoming class, at least from the admission perspective, it's simultaneous with what your conversation here is in this episode, which is saying goodbye to a whole class of students. That is the cycle of working at a college, is that you say goodbye to a fantastic group of students that you've made relationships with over the last 4 years, that have left an impression, that have done some really cool things. And the reason you say goodbye to them is to make room for the next generation, which is coming in. And so this is a bittersweet episode. I'm going to get out of the way now, hand it over to Emily to have this raucous cocktail party of seniors come in and tell you about their time here. So let's go straight over to that.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our senior send-off. Today I have, how many do I have? 7 of our VSA seniors that are graduating. Unfortunately, we couldn't get everyone on the call, but just to get us started, can we do some intros? I'm Zooming with Matt, so do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Matthew Foss. I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering from Kansas City, Missouri.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering, and I'm from Alamo, California, up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Rennie, and I am a senior studying industrial and systems engineering from Palos Verdes, California.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Meany. I'm currently a senior studying civil engineering with an emphasis in building science, and I'm from Woodland Hills, California.
Hey, everyone. I'm Stephen Lewis. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering, and I'm from Orange County, California.
Hey, everybody. My name is Mark. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering, and I'm from Diamond Bar, California.
Okay, cool. I know that was a lot of intros, so hopefully our listeners can keep up. But I was just wondering, so we're kind of wrapping up right now. We only have 2 weeks left of the semester. I was kind of wondering how you guys are feeling.
Bittersweet. I'm like, wow, like it's coming to an end, but there's like a lot to look forward to. So it's like both emotions right now, but making the most of it, I would say.
Exactly. It's kind of like you're ending one chapter, which is sad, but then you also think about you're beginning this whole chapter, which is like the rest of your life. So that's also very exciting too. So it's kind of like a mix of both of those, like Stephen said.
I just have chosen not to acknowledge it yet. I think that's healthy, right?
I honestly, Nick, like same. I feel like it really hasn't hit me yet. I mean, I think part of it has to do with the fact that I'm doing grad school here at USC. And so I think like it kind of just started hitting me today. When I was like getting ready to record this, I was like, wow, we're graduating in a month. Graduation is a month from today. So I'm kind of freaking out now.
Yeah, I was giving a tour on campus and people were taking like their classic graduation photos with like the white dresses and the sash. And then somebody in my group was like, oh, have you taken your grad pictures yet? And it was just 30 seconds of silence. I was crunching the numbers, did not compute at all.
Yeah, I think I remember last year around this time, like I was listening to Audrey's send off podcast for all the seniors. And I was just like, I remember listening to it and being like, wow, I can't believe they have all their stuff together. They're like about to graduate, like have all this stuff lined up. And then now it's our turn. And I feel like we're awesome, we got it, but there's a lot to be like figured out still, and that's okay. But yeah. Just kind of to get into it, I kind of wanted to like ease into talking about how you guys think your involvements have shaped your time at USC. I know for me personally, like jumping in, I didn't know anyone at USC. And so joining clubs like the climbing team in Troy Camp were like ways that I found my community. I was wondering if you guys had a similar experience.
I would say 100%. I think there's one organization that I really stuck through my entire time here at USC. And I feel like that's the USC Spirit team. And I think it's honestly become a big part of my USC identity. And so I think it's been really integral in shaping, who I am as a USC student. And I think honestly, like the legacy I'm going to leave behind too. I think that's a way a lot of people are going to remember me. And I'm really happy with that. I think it's a great thing. I'm really proud of it. But I think it's also given me some of my favorite memories in college. Like senior year alone, I got to travel with the men's basketball team for like 2 weeks. We went to Vegas and then we got flown out to South Carolina. And like, those are some of my favorite Spirit memories, like just from this year alone. So I think it's been a great part of college.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, for the longest thing that I've been involved in is Frisbee, like first semester freshman year, I started into that instantly. And it's kind of different than how your experience has been, Alex, because I mean, it's kind of come and gone and how much I've been involved in it, especially, with COVID and everything, but also just with like going into more different clubs that are like maybe a little bit more professional, a little bit more intense about attendance. So for Frisbee, it's been always something that I can kind of come back to, like shapes my time in that whenever I have space for it, it kind of fills that void and kind of gave me a lot of good people and good memories, but it also wasn't something that had to dominate my time. So I never really got sick of it, which was really great.
For me, I would say NSBE was definitely a big part of my undergraduate career, just because I joined a little late my first semester freshman year, but the friends that I made and kind of the opportunities that it's provided me have definitely changed my life. And I know I talked about it a little bit on the podcast with Javon and Victoria and then a little bit with Emily last week, but it's definitely made a big impact in my life and I'm kind of grateful that I joined.
Yeah, I think that it's nice in college to have, at least I have kind of like a range of involvements, both with like one involvement I've stuck with for pretty much all of college is Greek life. And being part of a fraternity has been great for making a lot of friends and having a good social atmosphere. But then also being a part of a lot of civil engineering related clubs have helped me kind of gain a lot of experience and just also work on really cool projects for them. And then one that's like not really technically a club, but I've always been really happy to have been a part of is my emphasis, because there's only been 11 of us throughout the 4 years. So we've kind of gone through that very specific process together and all have very specific interests that all align. So it's been nice having that all 4 years.
Yeah, I felt like the clubs I've been, I guess the first club I pretty much joined at USC was 3D4E, which is the 3D printing club. And I guess it's kind of funny now, whenever anyone has anything 3D printing related or design related, like people will remember like, oh, Steven, he's the president of the club. And then I'll like get messages or something like, oh, how do I do this or something about this? And I'm like, 3D printing has been like a huge part of my life throughout USC. And also like, it's cool because everyone in the club loves 3D printing. And then I guess the other thing is joining the surf team club here. That's been huge. It's kind of funny also because I'm from Orange County. So when I tell people that I surf now, they're like, of course you surf. Like I have long hair and stuff. Like, of course he surfs.
Surfboard behind him in this podcast right
now. But I didn't start surfing until sophomore year of college. So I think that's kind of like a fun thing where it was something, it was present. There was a lot of people doing it. And it's kind of what got me more into surfing. And it's been super fun. It's a huge part of my life now where I go surf most mornings that I can. So I think your involvements really are become like who you are, like it's like your passions and hobbies. And then it's also in the other side, it's like you're using it to like socialize with other people that enjoy the same things.
I was going to say, I think my big one was just like being a tour guide all 4 years, because you get to learn a lot about USC really quickly. And that helped me kind of break out of my shell from being a mega introvert my first semester, which like I knew I didn't want to be, which is part of the reason I pushed myself to become a tour guide. And now it's to the point where new tour guides are coming in and I gave their tours. So it's like a really weird full circle moment to be in that position, but it's also a lot of fun to see, not only did people make a decision based on what I said, but they at least enjoy it. I didn't misinform them or lead them down the wrong path.
Yeah, I love that. I remember, so like Nick was one of my first friends freshman year. We lived across the hall from each other. And I remember Nick like preparing for his tours and preparing to like, because you have to do a big test, right? Where you have to give like a big tour for everyone. And I remember you like making jokes about the climbing team and stuff in it, which was awesome. But I think you guys kind of touched on this in your last answer, but I wanted to see like more specifically, are there any like highlights that stick out to you? Like core memories that kind of just like stuck with you throughout this experience at USC?
I think mine was always getting to do something really random and like quintessentially LA that you're just like, how did I fall upon this opportunity? Or, like it's so cool I'm able to do this. Main one I can pinpoint is I think my sophomore year, I got asked to be in the background of an awards show on the CW that was for celebrities' dogs. So it's just like on the CBS backlot, like eating food, doing all this stuff. I got to meet like Colton from The Bachelor, Lisa Vanderpump, and like a bunch of like celebrity dogs that have appeared in movies and TV. And then eventually they're like, oh, we need young people to be in the front. So I had to figure out what to do with my hands for about 40 minutes, standing like 10 feet behind Mario Lopez. My parents have the entire thing recorded and I'm just like visible. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, only in LA can you be a background person for a celebrities dogs award show.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
What
Neither did I.
Did you watch it afterwards, or did you just accept it at face value?
My parents like, watch this. I watched 5 seconds where I was in a frame. I'm like, nope.
I would not be able to do that.
Wait, so the dogs are owned by celebrities, or the dogs themselves are celebrities?
Both.
Oh.
Because like Lisa Vanderpump has her whole dog foundation, so it's like Lisa Vanderpump's dogs, but they're irrelevant. And then like the dog from like A Dog's Life or Dog's Purpose. Well, I mean, I don't know any of their names, but there was like there'd be like a cute Pomeranian wearing like a tuxedo, and you're like, oh, that dog's wearing a tuxedo, and then the owner would hand out like the dog's like business card with social media things on it. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh. I feel like for me, I guess like I feel like this is definitely like a lasting memory is at USC, we kind of live in like a small neighborhood that's full of college kids. And especially these days now, I feel like when I walk from my house to anywhere on campus, on the way, I'll see at least like 5 people that I know. Or like, and it'll be like people that the last time I talked to them was like freshman or sophomore year of college, right? And I'm like, and you just say hi. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think it's really cool. Like there's not many times where you're just walking like to class and back where you're like seeing all these people that like you've grown with throughout your 4 years here. And, you might have split paths like a while back, but you still consider them a friend and you're just giving them a quick hey as you pass by. So I think that's something that's like I'll definitely miss a lot, just kind of the close community that we have here.
Yeah, it's gonna be really weird just walking around and not seeing anyone you know. Like that's something that's very specific to college, and I feel like that's gonna be just very odd to just not be able to just run into someone for fun, have that be like an event rather than a daily occurrence.
Yeah, I feel like people think that USC is so big, like you'll never run into people, but I run into people more here than I did at my high school, which had like way less students. So it's kind of crazy, and you'll run into people like Steven said that you haven't seen since freshman year, and it's cool to be like, oh my gosh, like you were like, I remember like meeting people that like they were a general member of this club and now they're the president or whatever. So it's cool to see everyone just like develop through that path.
Yeah, it's also weird, like even Steven mentioned, like it's a small little bubble, but even outside of the USC ring, like you still see people that you know everywhere you go. Like I went to the beach a couple weeks back and I saw Natalie Kistler. She used to be an old VSA, and like just multiple people on the beach in Manhattan. And it was like just a common occurrence seeing people around. And it's almost more, how do I phrase this? It's almost uncommon if you don't see people out from USC that you know.
Mm-hmm. The Trojan family.
Yeah.
Right on.
Real thing.
I'm trying to think of other core memories. I feel bad for pushing this question on you guys, and I don't even have an answer for it.
I would have to say, honestly, my first USC football game, like freshman year, we played Fresno State, beat the Bulldogs. And actually, now I'm doubting myself. Maybe that's not the team we played. That's embarrassing.
No, we played UNLV.
Yep.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
Beat the
I
Bulldogs
remember that.
sophomore year because that was my first time performing at a football game. That's why. But regardless, I feel like the first football game of every season is always such a good memory. And I remember like being so excited because I had like grown up going to USC football games, but actually being a student in the student section my freshman year was so much fun, especially because my dad played football for SC way back when. And yeah, he also has a Rose Bowl ring. Fun fact. I love plugging that one.
Why is this the first time we're hearing?
Casual flex. All right.
Really?
What?
Yeah,
I feel like this comes up
like-
more often than you would think.
No, it should have came up in the Michael played football conversation,
Yes.
but it hasn't.
Fair. I think Michael does know this though. But my dad played football for USC, and so we always used to watch games, and I used to like come to games when I was younger. And so like being a student was just so much fun, and getting, because there's nothing like it. I mean, like I've been to other, student section football games, like been across town to the other school in LA, and like their football is so lame compared to ours. Like their student section, so lame compared to ours. And so I think that was a core memory. Also because I got like the most sunburnt I'd ever gotten. So
I was gonna say that's what I remember from that football game.
I remember
me too.
yeah.
a very
It's all of us, I guess.
very important experience was after those day games were such a struggle. But then I remember we'd walk back to campus and then go to the Parkside dining hall and get some soft serve ice cream. And that there's just something about that hit different on those days.
Dude, getting it anytime was great. Like after a hard exam, Parkside ice cream with crushed Oreos on top. Nothing beat that.
Oh my
Nothing
God.
beat that.
I remember. That's crazy how we all kind of had like this like same shared experiences. Like we all are like, hey, did you do this? And everybody's like, yeah. Or like, hey, did you get sunburned at the first game? And it's like, yeah, me too.
We're all not great about applying sunscreen. Very common.
Yeah, well, that's the story for me like throughout all of college. I guess honestly, that's a core memory for me. Honestly, is just getting
Not applying
ridiculously sunburned. No, just getting ridiculously sunburned like all the time. But I would say the one that I was thinking about, and like I know this doesn't apply to everybody, and like it doesn't sound like necessarily positive, but I remember it fondly, is like some of like the all-nighters I've had to pull. And like just like the fun I would have with like the people. Like in like we had like a studio class for building science, and we had to like build this tower out of paper, and we had to like make origami pieces that would attach to each other, so we couldn't use any like glue or tape to like make like a 5-foot tower out of paper. And the night before it was due, I stayed up until like 7 a.m. because earlier that day it just like completely fell over at like 4 feet, so I had to like rebuild it. And that was the first time I've ever like stepped out of a building at like night and seen it be like the morning after. And I was like, this is absolutely crazy. I was like, I do not know what's going on right now. But that was like, it doesn't sound fun. And in the moment, it wasn't the best feeling, but I do remember moments like that very fondly because I feel like I really bonded with like people in my class who also had to stay up that late to finish it.
Yeah, that reminds me, I don't know if you remember this, Matt. Okay, Matt does remember this, but we were studying for this really hard neuroengineering midterm. We didn't really know what was going to be on it. The class was like really confusing and we were all super stressed out. And so we invited, whenever I have a class that I'm like really confused about, I just invite everyone over to my dorm or whatever, and we all just like collectively stress and study together. Which makes it a lot more fun and I'm more motivated to study for classes like that. But I just remember I didn't know Matt very well and Matt just like was like running around with his shoes off and like in like a squat like this, but like with his arms like as a square the whole time. And I remember just being like, it's an interesting way to show your stress.
Very kinesthetic learner. I don't learn well statically. I like to be moving, and that was a moment where we needed a lot of learning. We read like 10 chapters of that book, went over like a bunch of homeworks. That was the first thing I thought of as well when Chris brought that up. But yeah, that was an evening. That was an evening and a half. I think I left at 4:50 and you guys were still there.
Yeah. Those like
God.
memories, you know, when you were talking about like your cohort of just 11 and your emphasis, like I feel like I don't know how many are in BME.
We're about 40 something strong.
40, yeah. Well, I feel like I know like everyone in BME like somewhat. We've all like crossed paths and taken the same classes, and I just feel like I don't know. I'm super proud to like be graduating with all the BMEs, and we have like a little like luncheon after graduation, which I think will be really cute.
Oh, that is. I agree because I have around the same amount in civil, and I feel like I know everybody in my classes. And like one time, our professor, I feel like I tell this story a lot because that's like another core memory for me is that for one of our midterms, our professor was like, "Okay, you guys can collaborate if you do it during office hours." And out of like the 37 people in the class, like 33 showed up to the office hours. We all took it together. The average was an A, obviously. So it's just like. I love like that everybody knew each other and everybody was comfortable enough to just meet and just like do it all together. So that was super cool.
Cute.
That's awesome. That's so nice.
I was gonna say ISC, we did a Friendsgiving in November, like a bunch of us. We had like potluck style. And I remember everyone was like really nervous to cook for each other because it was like actual cooking too. Like somebody made a full-on turkey, like roasted turkey in his like college apartment oven, and it was impressive. I made green bean casserole for the first time too. And so it was a time. It was fun.
Wow. All right. I like love that question. I'm so glad that you guys all shared that. But I was also wondering, so I think going into college, we have these expectations of what it's going to be like, what you're going to do. And I was wondering how did the expectations differ from the reality of the situation?
I think for me, I genuinely thought that college, especially engineering, was going to be such a scary and competitive thing. Not necessarily because of anything I had heard at USC, but because my cousin was a computer science major at a different California school. And he would tell me about all the times he'd go to the library to check out a textbook and the pages he would need like were ripped out. And so I was terrified. I was so scared to be an engineer. And I will have to say, like, that being a negative expectation, then having it turn around and be like, you know, like what Chris just said, having like a collaborative environment where people genuinely want to help each other. I think that was something I was very thankful that I was wrong about. But,
wow. That's cool. Also, sorry, I just have to introduce our next guest, but Gus just logged in after he had his class. So do you want to introduce yourself really fast just so people know you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Gus. I am a senior at USC studying chemical engineering. I also have a biochemistry concentration, and I am originally from Florianopolis, Brazil. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so glad that you're able to join. But yeah, we were just talking about expectations versus reality in college.
I think that when I first came in, I just was like really excited to be surrounded by people that had like similar interests as me. And I think that the reality to that was, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was like a positive or a negative, but it was just the fact that like when you get, at least at USC, this is what I found to be true, is that people have like so many different interests. And what I thought was really cool is like at USC, like you will like hardly ever found someone who's just like plain boring. People had their different interests and so many different things and things that I had never even like heard about in the first place. So it's just like a really exciting environment to be at. And I think that that was the main thing that we lost because of the pandemic, where college kind of just filtered out to be like just classes. And I'm so happy that we got to be back here for our senior year, because being surrounded by so many amazing people was something that I really, really, really missed when we were back at home. So yeah, I think that having that realization of getting here and seeing that there's so many different things that people can do with their college experience at USC, may that be like through engineering or anything else, was really a surprise and something that I wouldn't change for the world.
Yeah, thinking about, I've been like thinking about this for a minute now. And then I think my conclusion is, I don't know if I had any set expectations. I think all I really had was like, all right, they got like good engineering program, big football school. And then they passed my vibe check when I visited campus. And that was like, I'm like, that's good for me. You know, I'm in. This seems exciting. And then I felt like the first time when I was like, God, it wasn't even like, we haven't even started school yet. I still remember it was freshman orientation the summer before classes started. And we were there for like essentially 2 days. That's actually where I met Nick for the first time. But I remember it was like, I don't know, it was just crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone around me is like really cool, and we're all just having a fun time. There's certain things we had to do for the orientation, but the rest of the time was kind of just like free time to like hang out and have fun. And I was like, this is awesome. And that was like, I felt like the first taster of college, where it's kind of like you're given that freedom to kind of do whatever you want for like most of the day. And then obviously we had welcome week, which is just a week of like activities, and then school actually started. And I felt like in terms of the academics and all that, like, I don't think it was anything shocking to me. It was kind of what I guess I would have expected from a university. But I felt like the biggest thing was like being shocked by like how social your life becomes, at least for me, compared to like how my social life was in high school, where it's like I had my friends and we did stuff, but it wasn't like constant, you know, you're not constantly getting lunches and dinners with people and that type of stuff. So I felt like that was kind of like the coolest thing that happened during college.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Steven. I've been thinking about this for a while, and like, it's hard to think back to expectations, but I definitely had them like going in. Like, I know that at certain moments, I always thought that whatever I was doing at the time was kind of just how it was going to be for the rest of college. Like every single like moment, every activity I was doing, I was like, yeah, I'm going to continue this all the way through. And now it feels like there was no other path I could have taken, even though I've switched like out of like the idea. I came in pre-med, guys. There's no chance I'm doing that. And then like did a bunch of random activities. I was in 3D 40 for a second, and that was great. And I was like, oh, I'm going to keep on doing this. And then just things happen and you shift, and suddenly you're with a different group of people. Like every semester, like your close friends will still be there, but you'll see more people like just every single other day as your classes switch up, as something else happens. And it feels like it's going to be that way forever, but it's that way for like a few months. And then I just have an entirely different experience, but it still feels singular. I don't know if that's just me, but it's just weird to now look back and realize that I was never right in what I thought was going to happen.
I definitely feel that. I feel like when I think of my expectations, I feel like they've always were changing, and then the experiences would always change too. And I feel like it's kind of like when I was talking about the all-nighters, where I feel like there have been like ups and downs throughout college. No like serious downs at all. I'm just saying, oh, I might have been really stressed or something might have happened. But there have also been so many amazing moments with so many friends, like lifelong friends that I've made, that I feel like I wouldn't trade any of the bad experiences for them not to happen. I feel like college was just this amazing experience from start to finish. And like, I just like, even though like it was constantly, I definitely agree with Matt. There was kind of like, it felt like all of it was kind of like meant to happen in that direction.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what you said about like what everyone said about like your friends shifting and like lifelong friends, I think the crazy thing, like looking back on like becoming friends with people, was like I never realized how important they would become in my life at the time. Like we might just like sit next to each other in lab and become lab partners just by accident or something. Or I remember I chose to be lab partners with this one girl because she was also wearing chacos because she seemed cool. And then we ended up becoming like really close friends and now neighbors and stuff like that. So I love like, I don't know, I love like that you don't have control. You can try your best, but like you kind of just like go with the flow, and college kind of like guides you on the right path. But that transitions really well into my next question because we've all kind of been acknowledging this, but like engineering's hard, college is hard, it's a big challenge. And I was wondering, what are some either like challenges you faced during your experience, whether it's COVID or not, or you can talk about like lessons you've learned during college.
Challenge wise, I think the biggest one I can think of was my sophomore year. I had the flu and had to take 3 exams like while recovering from it. And I got all the grades back within like 90 minutes of one another, to the point where it was like I failed all of them and pretty solidly, even with the curve, failed them. And I freaked out about it. And that was the only time I think, in high school, thinking I was going to be an engineer, being here, that I was ever like, did I make a mistake by choosing my major? And I ended up going to friends that I had that I made through being a tour guide, who essentially snapped me out of it and told me that I was, not necessarily told me I was overreacting in like a dismissive way, but helped me realize that it was a fluke and kind of helped me rebuild my confidence. So I think that's one big thing that I can think of. And one thing I really appreciate about my time at USC is the people you meet through your study groups, those late night study sessions, build teams, student orgs, work opportunities, things like that. Build this, for lack of better terms, like support section, cheer section for you that is okay to lean on, and in a lot of ways can also like form you to be that best person, that best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I think the biggest challenge for me was, I don't know, when I'm thinking about my classes specifically, at least, is like no longer always knowing how to do everything exactly perfectly. I felt like in high school and all my math classes and science, and then obviously the humanities courses, like I knew exactly what to expect for the exam. I knew exactly what I needed to study for. And then I would know all the material and be fine in those classes. And then kind of throughout college, especially as I progressed into like my junior year, like core classes and stuff, kind of started switching where I'm like, I barely understand what's going on. And I'm just trying to like figure out enough to do these homework assignments. And I think the biggest thing with that was just kind of like, obviously you want to be able to understand it to the best of your ability, but also being okay with not fully understanding everything, because the professors are making some of these classes to a harder level so that you could, even if you're only understanding the way they're teaching it to like 70%, that's really good. And I think that's kind of like a hard thing to overcome when you're kind of like, I don't know, I felt like I was kind of like a perfectionist when it came to my studies. Like I wanted to understand how to do every single problem that I encountered. And I found in college that isn't always the case.
For me to piggyback off of what Nick said, I had, so like my second semester of freshman year, I think I really struggled with like mental health stuff, which I won't get into now. But I think like that was the moment when I realized that life just like doesn't stop, right? So when you're having like really serious struggles, and you just have to like keep pushing through it, right? And in college, even more so, I think, because it's not like when you go out into like the real world and you're like working, you work 9 to 5, and then once you clock out at 5, you can just do whatever you want and kind of like take time to decompress. But in college, like you're constantly doing stuff, right? And whenever you're not doing anything, it's because you're choosing not to do anything, because you definitely have things that you could be doing. Let that be like schoolwork or like work for orgs or like work. And I think that like it really hit me at that point, but it was also a really important moment for me because I realized how important and how essential a support system can be. Because like it was really, really serious at the time, but even though like it was serious to like a really high level, to a point where I thought I would have to like take a break from college, I now look back at it and I only have like positive memories from that semester. And that was a semester, it was like my spring semester's freshman year. And it was a semester where I started to feel at home at USC, and I started to like prefer to be here over being home. So it was a really special like turning point for me. And it was obviously like the only reason why I was able to overcome all those things was because of my friends and friends and people that I'm like still, they're still like my best friends like to this day, and people that made my whole USC experience worth it in the first place. So being able to find the people that will give you like unconditional love and that are like not your family but have become your family by choice was really important and something that I want to carry on with me post graduation for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's like really personal. And I think everyone kind of like hit on how, you know, going into a college, USC or other colleges, like imposter syndrome and homesickness and just kind of feeling out of place is totally real. And a lot of people experience it. And I think it's important to note that like you're there for a reason. People like, I guess the admissions committee chose you for a reason. USC wants you here and your classmates want you here. And like all of us have been able to find a support system at USC, which I think is like really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Gus that that is kind of that hardest time. Like that first time you come into USC and everyone's going to be friends. You're going to meet everyone. You're doing every single thing you can. You want to find friends. You're like, okay, this is going to be best friends for life. College is the best time of your days. All that whole rhetoric that goes along with it. And so you're trying to make it like that. And I mean, when it comes down to it, the very beginning is kind of the worst part. You don't have the most support system. You don't have the most friends. You haven't figured out what you're doing yet. You don't have established groups. And so I think kind of everyone, but at least I went through like definitely a period where I was like, I'm not sure this is where I want to be. I'm not sure this is what I need to be doing because there were so many people in my life that they're great people, but they weren't people for me necessarily. And so I think that it really started to feel like home once you get that first cut of like, these are people that can exist in my life, but they're not going to be people that I need to be spending all my time with when you start to really figure out which people are yours and which people are just a part of your time at college.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And it has been mentioned before, but also just to also agree with it. I feel like I went through my fair share of struggles with classes at the beginning and I was not prepared to take on the engineering course load. And I definitely struggled with my grades in the beginning and I had to withdraw from a class 2 semesters in a row. And I think that at first I wasn't really embarrassed by that because I was like, am I stupid? Like, can I not do engineering? And then you just realize that a lot of other people, like you're not alone. Like everybody has to try really hard in those classes, even sometimes just to pass them. So I think you just kind of have to make peace with the fact that you're not going to know everything, like Steven said, and just like try to just do your best throughout. And like I will say it does get better. Like I feel like I also didn't have the greatest, like we talked about, support system or also just methods for studying. And I feel like I gained a lot of those and was able to improve my grades and my understanding a lot more throughout college.
Yeah, that being said, like take friends with your classes, be friends with your classes with your friends, because they will be that support system for you. But at the same time, don't blindly follow your friends into taking classes. So I made the horrible decision my junior year, first semester, to take fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, mech ops, and
all in one semester, Mark?
Sounds like a
That's
nightmare.
Becky, man. It sucks.
In one semester?
So I will say, follow the course plan. Do not let your friends influence your course plan because we died. We absolutely died in those 5 classes together. And if it wasn't COVID, like if I had a life outside of classes, I would not have passed all of them. But like, you know, we didn't have a life. So we just took classes and it was probably the worst 15 weeks at USC I've ever had. No, it was 13 weeks because they
shortened it for you.
So they shortened my misery. But I will say that is one thing that I learned. But at least if I was alone, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So there's a saving grace in everything.
Yeah, I definitely want to like emphasize what like a lot of you guys said, but there is one thing that I do kind of want to like touch upon, which is something I feel like I came to realize recently, but also like I feel like it's okay, like none of us really had a clear idea of what engineering was when we started. Like if we really think about it, like we probably chose engineering because we really liked calculus, we really liked chemistry, we really liked physics, all of those classes in high school. So I feel like when I took, calc and I took physics, those classes were fine for me, but I feel like engineering, it was a whole new world. And I think that was a challenge in itself, just because it was so new, like new material, new environment, new people, new everything. And so I think that's like what really made it challenging. And I think, everything else like you guys have talked about is like how you get through that. But that's, I think, what was most challenging for me is just so new.
I mean, I have to agree with that because I came in thinking mechanical engineering was like robots, cars, roller coasters, cool. And now I'm going, way more architectural and sustainable, like design consulting on the other side of things, which is, things that are still instead of things that are moving, or at least I hope they're relatively still. It means they're doing their job right. But it was just really interesting to see how much engineering kind of grows as you learn about it to be a lot more than just, math, science, and solving a problem. There's a lot more to it in like the best way possible.
Yeah, I also think like because engineering grows, I feel like our understanding of it changes too. And so I know like I started USC as a chemical engineer, determined to go into like green technology, and I was like, I'm gonna work on solar panels. And then I took classes with that kind of stuff, and I was like, I'm not gonna work on solar panels anymore. And now I'm going into consulting. And so I feel like that was also a challenge for me. I was like, oh my God, I had this like clear goal and clear vision. Like, what am I without it? And so I think like understanding that like that's part of college, is growing and changing your opinion, and it's not going to be the same from when you're 17, 18 years old. And like if it is, good for you, but it's okay if it's not.
Alex, how full circle would it be if your first consulting project is for a solar panel company?
You know what? I think it would be great. I'm going into like cloud and digital consulting, so there's hope though. There is hope.
Cloud.
I definitely feel like
cloud of solar panels.
Solar panels on clouds.
You know what? I'll let you know, guys. If that happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I definitely feel like a lot of the times, because when we've like had to, talk to parents and students about whether they're gonna like their major or not, I'm just like, honestly, you're not gonna know until you do it, because a lot of times you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it, and then you don't know if you don't like it until you do it and you don't like it. And because that happened to myself when I started taking like the weed out classes for civil. I was like, I need to get out of here. I was like, I hate this. I almost switched to ISC. I was literally planning it with my advisor. And then I was like, no, I know that I'm going to love this in the future. And I got to that point where I'm good now. But everybody, I think, has like doubts about their majors. And I stuck with it and I'm happy. But also sometimes you need to listen to those doubts and you're like, no, I really don't like this. A change needs to happen, and then you're happy with the change. So
yeah, I think it's important to like have that flexibility, like allow yourself to listen to your heart and kind of figure out what's right for you, because I think often we get in the mindset of like, oh, like I'm going biomedical engineering all the way, like I've been wanting to do this since I was born or whatever, and then it feels really scary to move away from that. But that's like all what college is about. But kind of pivoting, I was wondering, do you guys have like a certain person or group that you think has really like impacted you in your USC experience?
Does somebody else go first? Because if I start answering, I'm gonna cry.
Oh no.
Well, I can say, just because like I feel like I've already said it before, is that it's just like that group I had within building science. Like we've pulled all-nighters together. We've worked on these group projects before, and it's just really interesting to find a group of people that have a very specific same interest as you. And it's also just like I feel like I've made a group within that of people that are like people I can go to for help with homework, but also people that I want to hang out with outside of class, which is a really nice feeling. And it's just nice to have that. And then also just like I mentioned before, the friends I've made within my fraternity. I feel like I live with 7 other of my best friends in it right now, and we're all seniors, and they've just been like a great support system to have. So I really appreciated both of those groups.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this, and I feel like probably one of the one of the small like blessings in disguise that happened like during COVID was essentially the people I was going to live with my my junior year weren't coming back to campus, but I wanted to be around campus during my junior year. Just it was better like mental space for me and all that. And I reached out to one of my friends that I was friends with like freshman year, and then sophomore year we hung out every now and then, but we weren't like super close friends. But then we hung out that summer before junior year for a bit, and then I was like, yo, is there any space in your apartment that I could sublease from? And then I lived with like him and his friends. I didn't really know most of his friends that well at the time. And then we all became super close throughout my junior year. And that was like just a super cool thing, where it's like kind of a group of people that I wasn't friends with at all, and now I consider like some of my closest friends from college. and we do stuff all the time together. So it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like certain things are just kind of nice how they work out, and it's super cool. Like I feel like when you find that really accepting group of you and takes you for who you are. So I think that was like a group that's really been there for me and has been able to support me when I needed them.
Yeah, I would say for me, I did like a summer program before I started USC called the Viterbi Summer Institute. It was for minority students just to get them acclimated with campus and just kind of make sure you have all the resources that you need to succeed. And two of my current roommates now I actually met through that program. And we've stayed best friends ever since, which is, amazing. But, they have definitely been a support system for me through everything because, we all started up engineering and there was, I would say like 50 students in that program. And I would say, people started dropping like flies, transferring to business, transferring to comms, even transferring to schools because engineering was really difficult. But, having that support system was really nice. And then I would also say my mom was definitely a big impact on my time at USC. Like whenever I would fail an exam, which was a little bit more often than I would have wished, I definitely give her a call and she'd be like, it's okay. Like you're still going to graduate. Like it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things, which it really didn't. So I'm really happy, to have her and my friends.
For me, my core friend group, like to this day and like through all of college, basically has been like my Brazilian friends. I met them like first week of school when the Brazilian club on campus had like a welcome event, and I decided to go. And we like laugh about this like to this day because I did not like them like right off the bat. Like I was not friends with them for that whole first semester, and then second semester coming back because a lot of them lived in the same dorm as me. And I would always like see them hanging out. I was like, oh damn, like I wish, but I don't really like them. So like, what can you do? And then I was like, you know what? Like, let me give these people a chance. And I started hanging out with them more often. And they turned out to be some of like the most amazing people I have ever met. And it's like really interesting, I guess, kind of like in contrast with like what has been said of like people with like similar interests as you. It's really cool for me to see how we all have like interests that are like vastly different, but we all come together as a little family and we can always be there for each other. Even like for like just like stupid stuff, we're like always like going out on the weekends and stuff. But when like actually like serious things happen and you need that support system to be there for you, those are always the people that I would be crying and running to. And we just had we all went to Mexico for spring break. That was kind of like our graduation trip, and I had the best time with them. And yeah, I think that like when I first came in and I first met them, I not in like my wildest dreams would I have expected to be where we are right now. And for me to be walking out of USC and the fact that I got to be the president of the Brazilian club my senior year was a really like full circle experience, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. And excited to be back in LA post graduation so I can be with them for a little longer too. So yeah.
I think for me, probably my team. Just because like they've been through so much with me. Some of my favorite memories have been with them, but also like I literally trust these kids with my life. Just because like they literally throw me up in the air and catch me every single time, never fallen. So I think that's kind of been a really cool bond to have. Yeah, I'm gonna cut it there.
I think for me, being involved in like so many different things, it was really interesting for me in college, but also very cool to see that, I don't have to be friends with all 120 tour guides, like best buddies with them, but I pulled a few really good friends. And I think that was something that happened for me across the board is everything I got involved with, I'd pull like one or two really close friends with. And now we're all close friends, just like a good core group of, 5 or 6 friends that I have. Well, I have, more than that outside of it. I get this really core group of, 6 friends that I'm just like 100% confident in that will be, friends for life. Shout out Alex, she's in that group. We're going to Italy together after graduation. It's going to be fun.
Ooh, that was what was going to make me cry.
I know, that's why I decided to go all right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for all the reflection. Kind of like we're kind of wrapping up the episode, so I kind of wanted to end with a couple last questions. But first I just wanted to ask, like looking to the future, what are you guys planning for yourselves, like professionally? I think that's normally where this question is aimed, but also like personally, do you have any goals or things that you're planning on doing next in the next few years?
Man, that's a tough one because you do have, and I'm sure that a lot of people here have like immediate plans afterwards, but I feel like just like with like when we're talking about majors in college, there's a lot of, you know, like changes that are going to happen, and you're going to think you like something and then you don't, and then something you didn't think you would like, you would. But I would say, I guess for me personally, like I'm working for an engineering firm after college, and I'm staying in LA, and I'm working in building information modeling, which is kind of like the technology and modeling behind, you know, putting a building up. And I don't know if it's necessarily exactly where I want to start, but it's more about not less the actual work itself, but like the company that I'm working for, and just like how they really prioritize, you know, sustainability and really like the future of building technology. And that's definitely something that I want to be like working with, and I'm definitely looking in the future to work more with sustainability and being on that innovative track. So that's, you know, plans professionally, and definitely personally. I do want to travel, and hopefully I could with work, but I really do want to. I am looking to spend like a prolonged time in another part of the world, maybe like Australia or New Zealand or like London. I just feel it could be really cool to work there for like a year or two, maybe get a master's there, and just kind of like experience living in a different place for a long time.
Super cool.
Yeah, professionally for me, this summer I'm going to be working in consulting at PwC. And then after that internship, I'm going to be coming back to grad school. I'm going to get a master's in engineering management, which I'm really excited about and have been really enjoying my classes in that thus far. I think also kind of professionally, like I really love the idea of consulting for the next like 5 years or so, but I think I ultimately want to come back and teach. I think it would be really, really cool to be like a lecturer, maybe even here at USC, maybe even in the ITP department, just because I work there now. And I love, you know, being a teaching assistant, and I love getting to lead discussion and helping students. So I think that would be a really cool for full circle moment for me. And then personally, like I want to travel. I think the same as Chris. I think, you know, not getting to go study abroad, I think that's kind of a bummer that a lot of us can relate to. But I think, you know, getting to travel, do things like that, and then figuring out maybe a way to kind of weave some of my personal passion projects into work and combine those a little bit, I think are personal goals that I have for myself.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a minute now. And I feel like in terms of career wise and whatnot, I'm going into manufacturing and production engineering, which is what I think I want. We'll see when I start. But so that's kind of like the main thing that I feel like for professional, kind of get like a good footer into that, and then see if I like it. If I don't, then I don't know. I'll see what else there is out there for me. But in terms of personal goals, I feel like this is something I've been working on for a while now, and I feel like I've improved significantly, but really like living in the moment and enjoying the moment, like really taking in what's around me instead of thinking like, oh, like what am I gonna do in a few months from now or this. Like I feel like there's so much fun stuff to happen like that I could do right now. So I feel like that's kind of like the biggest thing that personally I'm working on is like to enjoy your day-to-day life instead of just waiting for things to happen.
For me, professionally, I'm going into quality assurance, and I'm going to be between Miami and LA. So, but I'm going to be between Miami and LA during the summer, but I want to be able to settle in LA for the fall. So fingers crossed for that. And in terms of my personal life, I think that, and I'm sure y'all can relate to this, but spring semester, senior year was just a lot of stuff going on at the same time. So with like senior design and like trying to pass on like leadership positions for like my clubs and stuff. And I feel like I had to let go a little bit of like personal growth and things that I wanted to work on. So I had like a lot of like reading goals, and I was training for a half marathon. I kind of had to like put that aside for a little bit, especially to work on my senior design project. So once that's turned in, which will be next week, I kind of just like want to go back and make a list of like the things that I want to prioritize after graduating. Because like I said earlier, like in college, like there's always stuff going on. And it's very like nonstop. So I'm excited for a life with a little bit of a more like structured routine so that I can like work 9 to 5 and then just have the rest of the day to figure out what it is that I want to do for myself. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to be able to do after I graduate.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty weird at this point. For me, I'm planning to go to law school, and so I have to do this whole thing again. It's been so weird being on this side of it while I've been also doing the thing that people that are listening to this podcast have been doing, like having to stress over applications, then realizing, oh my God, we're like there's people interviewing that are coming to this school that I'm gonna have to do that whole bit again of finding people. Like I'd hope that I have more experience with it now. I have an idea of what I'm doing, but you know, it's just weird to kind of start the cycle over. Like we've been talking about how little any of us knew about engineering. Guys, I don't know what law is. I don't really like. I've talked to people about it. I understand the concept, and I've talked to people that have done it, and like I've done my due diligence. It seems like it makes sense because of what I like, but
due diligence,
the same idea.
A lawyer already.
Yeah.
But it's just gonna be a weird thing to go back in and do the whole school thing again. And I think that like personally, what's gonna be really interesting to see for me at least, is something that I think about a lot is, you know, who you're gonna hold on to from college. Like there are just so many people that are valuable to me and that I think are absolutely phenomenal that we've met here. I mean, all of you are incredible, and I'd love to stay in contact with all of you, but like statistically, that's just really crazy to think about. Like how many people are you going to be able to, everyone's going to be so busy all the time. Being able to actually talk to everyone on a daily basis as much as you'd like to is going to be almost impossible.
Let's set a 5-year reunion so we can combat that. Like 5 years from today, we have to check in and be like, remember that podcast when Matt said we're not going to talk to each other anymore?
I didn't say that. I said that it's going to be challenging to keep in touch with everybody all the time as much as I would like to.
It's so cynical. I'm such an optimistic guy.
No, but he's right though, because I've noticed that this semester too, it's gotten harder because I feel like I had so much social energy, like especially during sophomore year. Like I felt like an unstoppable force, like texting everybody all the time, constantly staying in contact with so many people. And now people text me and I forget to respond. And like 6 days later, I'm like, oh, sorry, just saw this. And it's like really embarrassing. And I feel like it's just something that happens. Like it becomes harder to just like maintain that constant like social network in your life all the time. And I think he's just being realistic, but I think that it's possible to stay in contact with everybody. Maybe not super often, but it's possible to check in once in a while.
So for me, I am going into, actually, I don't know what I'm going to. I am coming back for grad school. I'm doing an internship up in the Bay at a company called Planet. They do satellite Earth imaging. And I'm coming back for my master's in product development engineering. So everyone that's staying at USC, we can run it back for a little bit. But after that, I don't really know what I want to do. I definitely want to travel. Traveling is, something that I wish I could do more. And I wish my friends loved it a little more. So I might just go alone at this point. But where do I see myself down the road? I kind of definitely want to go back and get like an MBA and go into like corporate strategy a little bit. So I see myself kind of applying to those 2+2 MBA programs, or like where you can take like up to 5 years off, but you apply now. So I'm kind of looking into those. Yeah.
And I'm following suit with all the PDP people, the progressive degree people. I'm interning with AirUp up in San Francisco, and from what I've seen so far, that's where I think I want to continue on kind of professionally, at least for a while with that company. I guess on the side, I always had that dream to build a roller coaster. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'm still in the process of patenting my capstone project, which directly applies to the amusement industry. So it'll be cool to be at an amusement park one day, like at Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm, and see this thing that I did for my senior capstone actually being used in industry. So I guess that's kind of the goal down the road, is to see at least part of that dream come true, even if it's in a very, different and slightly more refined sense, so to say.
Wow. This is hard to follow all of these. I'm like so excited for everyone and to see like the updates from everyone next year. I'm pre-med, so I'm taking some time off to apply for medical schools. And then I'm also going to work as like either an EMT or a scribe, hopefully in like the Bishop or Mammoth area. I'm really interested in like, I don't know, like living somewhere I've never lived before, and just like kind of being on my own. Like I'll be completely independent. I don't really know anyone in those areas, and I don't have like the support system of college. So I'm kind of interested in like finding my place there, and hopefully climbing some more. I like have been having to put that a bit on the back burner because of school. So it'd be cool to just live in an area where I get to climb, ski, backpack, and do all those things for just a little bit longer before I sell my soul to medical school. But yeah, I just want to ask one last question. A lot of the people who listen to this podcast are prospective students. And I'm really curious, since we all sound so wise now. I know we all like feel in this position where we're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. But from a relative perspective, freshmen looking to seniors, I was wondering what advice do you have for like yourself or someone in a similar situation when they started?
Breathe, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think just showing up to class, like I got this advice. It was like, just show up. Like, I think that's like 90% of it. If you just show up and like spend time there, you'll like make friends, you'll start learning, you'll like be able to be successful. Obviously you have to put a little bit more effort in, but showing up is a huge part of it.
All right, I'll go real quick. I feel like the best thing that is just like seizing the moment. Like when you get invited to something random and you're kind of unsure, do I want to go to this or not? You're like, it's a Tuesday, like I should do work. Obviously, like there is a certain amount, like yes, you need to get your work done, but also like I still remember a lot of those random things I did on a random weekday throughout college. I don't remember doing a paper on a random Tuesday night. I don't remember when that happened or anything like that, but I remember these specific events that happened throughout college. And those are the things I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember very little about my specific memories doing homework. And I'm glad I won't really be remembering that stuff. So I think the biggest thing is kind of just doing those kind of cool, fun things that you randomly get invited to. And it might be on a whim or something, but just send it, go for it. And with that, I do have to go. So I will catch you guys later.
Thank you, Stephen.
Bye, Stephen.
Bye, Stephen.
Bye, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
I think another piece of advice that I would want to give, and I feel like this is one that people hear a lot, but just remember that everyone is on their own path. I feel like especially going to a school like USC where a lot of people are very, very, very high achieving, I think it's really easy to get caught up in the comparison game because you're going to be with people who have really crazy, amazing internships right off the bat their freshman year. And maybe you're going to be like me and have to apply to 55 different companies. And that's okay. And that's totally normal. And you're going to get to wherever you need to be in your own time. And life's not a race. And so like, don't forget to enjoy the journey along the way too. It's not just about the destination. It's about how you get there as well. And so I wish I had told my freshman self that a little bit more.
You literally took the words out my mouth, Alex. Because I was gonna say, take some time to stop and smell the roses. I always hadn't really knew what that meant. It was the weirdest event. Me and my brother heard that from some dude in Florida back in like 2016. But it really kind of caught up to me, I would say, this year. And especially when I was talking to some admitted students this past weekend, and he was like, oh, like, what do I need to be doing right now? And I'm like, dude, you're already admitted. Like, take some time, appreciate all the hard work that you've done to get to this point. And then like, because he was like, oh, I'm really trying to find an internship this summer. And I was like, you realize this might be your last summer to do nothing. And so kind of like, stopping to appreciate what you've done to this point. And then even then, like, you're always raising the bar, everything you do, you're always raising the bar for the very next step. And so, it may be hard to like realize how much you've accomplished in the past, but if you just take some time to look around and, appreciate everything you've done and kind of the friends you made along the way, is kind of my advice.
Super fast. Because I've already kind of mentioned it throughout this podcast. So it's more just like, and I know multiple people have too, it's that in the beginning, it's okay if not everything is exactly how you think it's going to be. I remember like Matt brought it up too, like sometimes like with all these super social people, it might be like maybe slightly lonely at the beginning because like you don't know as many people started college. You might not be doing super well in your classes in the beginning, and like just give yourself the time to figure that out for yourself, because if you put the effort in and you are patient, you will get better at studying, make a ton of friends, and you're gonna have a great college experience. You just need to give it that time and not just immediately say at the beginning, oh, it's not like amazing. I don't have like 500 friends and I'm getting all A's, like everything sucks. So it's just like, give it that time.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is take advantage of the privilege of being a college student. Like we get a pass to just like do stupid stuff. Like you're like at a time where you can just go out on a Wednesday and it will be fine. Like no one's going to judge you for that. And so really like take advantage also of like where you're at. I remember like my freshman and sophomore year, sometimes I would have like friends from home come visit me and they'd be like, oh, like what's there to do in LA? And I would realize that I didn't really know. I hadn't really explored LA for myself. So really like take advantage of like where you're at, take advantage of the privilege that you have, that like for 4 years you're allowed to do stupid stuff, to experiment different things and not stick with them if you realize that they're not for you. So really take it in that you're going through something that's very like temporary and you're never going to get this experience back. And yeah, explore your surroundings, be with your friends. Those are the things you're going to remember like in the long run.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone's kind of now just said everything. I feel like everyone's given great advice, but to rephrase it in a slightly different way is just don't stay at home. Even the boring things, don't do them at your house. Get everyone else there. Just always be doing things outside of your own home. It doesn't matter. You live in Los Angeles if you're here. It's beautiful 95% of the time. And if it's not, there's beautiful buildings right next to you to go do things in. I don't care how nice our dorms are. Don't stay in them. Go do other things everywhere else. And that applies to all parts of life. Just keep on being out of the house.
As Matt says when he's zooming from my room.
Well, that's not his house.
I'm zooming from campus, so it's beautiful.
Zooming from a freshman dorm.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you guys so much for talking to me. This was like really nice reflecting with everyone. And I'm so excited for everyone. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, we're back. We're back. You actually got everyone on one recording.
Yeah.
Which seems insane.
Yeah, because I was kind of like, for reference, I was kind of looking at Audrey's episode for the senior send-off, and she actually interviewed every single VSA.
She did one by one.
Yeah, one by one. And I was like, oh no, I already scheduled this as one giant meeting.
I think it's better like this.
Yeah, I think there were pros and cons. Like I think she was able to dive into stuff more deeply with like people one-on-one, but it was honestly like a very emotional podcast. And a lot of the seniors reached out to me after saying that they wanted to do a podcast like that for their student clubs, which is super cool to see. Like, again, like the accessibility of podcasts, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you talked about highs and lows. What was the most, I don't know, the most impactful or surprising high that someone had or that you weren't expecting?
I can't really.
Or low, for that matter. Something you're like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't think about
that. Well, I guess the thing that was really like, I mean, it seems really obvious saying it, but when we asked about like everyone's who changed your USC experience or who made your USC experience special, everyone had like a core club that they like wandered into like kind of accidentally. And it became like their form of support. And like one of our interviewees, Gus, he talked about how he joined the Brazilian Student Association and he met the people in the organization. He's like, I don't like these people. Like immediately. He's like, they're not that great. And he would like always see them hang out. And he's like, well, I don't really like them. And then he like slowly came to become best friends with them. And they became like his soul, so like his most important support network at USC, which I think is crazy how you can't like judge a book by its cover and you have to give people second chances.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. What is, in your opinion, something that one of our students is doing that you actually didn't expect them doing when let's say you met them, like what they're going off to do or where you see them now in their life? Because you've known most of these people for years now.
I mean, I think there's a lot of change, I think I'm probably one of the more consistent people in that, like, I was pre-med to start, pre-med to end, but a lot of people who are pre-med don't end up sticking with the pre-med.
Right.
Like, for example, Matt, who actually Zoomed with me, which was really fun. He came in as pre-med and then he was like kind of like pre-PhD for a little bit. And I had no idea what was going on with him. And then like he applied to law school this year.
Yeah.
Which is like a total surprise and really cool to see that.
He's going to Harvard Law.
Yeah, it's super cool. I need to brag about him a little bit more. So
yeah.
I
was like he's applying to law school. No, he's going to Harvard Law School. Like that is a big deal.
Yeah, and it's really awesome to see that because he's like one of my go-to study buddies. So it's cool to see how, like, I don't know, like we work a lot together. I think we bring different things to the table, and our like little study group of 3, we're all going in different directions. It's like one of them is going to PhD school at WashU, and then Matt's going to law school, and then I hopefully am going to medical school.
You will. I think what's interesting is that, and to add an element of I don't know, clarity or just additional detail. I think some people may hear lack of direction, or what they assume is a lack of direction when you're like, oh, I don't know what was going on with Matt, or like, oh, I hope I go to med school. I think they may hear that and think you guys don't know what you're doing. You guys know very well what you're doing. And it's just how you articulate it. I don't think there's a better way to articulate it, is that you're pretty flexible with the types of choices that you're going to be making in your future. And by no means is that a way of being flexible. Is that a lack of direction, or is that a lack of success? And I think that's what's really, really important, is that sometimes parents do this a lot. Definitely incoming engineering students a lot, is that they think they're supposed to have it all planned out. And to be quite honest with you, the students that I've seen that think they have it all planned out, that's where a lot of crashing and burning really occurs, because the minute something starts not going to plan, then it all is falling apart. So I think the one thing I want to encourage people to understand about the way Emily describes things is that it's not a lack of direction. It's about an increased added value of flexibility, and knowing that the world's going to take them in different places. And that's my point about Matthew, where you're like, yeah, I didn't know what he was going to do with his life. And it's like, no. He was exploring, and he's got some fantastic options. And I know that's not what you meant by it any stretch, but I just want people to understand, like, there is a comfort in the unknown that I think everyone at USC has, that I think is foreign to a lot of people before they come here.
Yeah, I'd say, like, I think Matt had a really good like open perspective coming into college. Like, if you asked him what he was thinking about doing, he's like, kind of thinking about law school, kind of thinking about med school, maybe PhD. I don't know. Yeah. And he didn't choose one until he was like totally sold, which I think is really smart. I think, like, for me, like, I've been saying I'm pre-med a lot, but I've done a lot of inner searching. Like, is this exactly what I want to do? Because, like, being a doctor is not an easy path to go down. And you shouldn't, like, I've heard lots of doctors give this advice, like, you should not become a doctor if you could be happy doing something else, which is something I've had to, like, really think about, because engineering is really cool. But I think the great thing about studying biomedical engineering, but just engineering in general, is like Matt, Austin, and I had this flexibility to really feel comfortable in what we were doing, like, I'm really excited. I probably will be going to medical school. But it's nice to be like, during those middle years when I wasn't 100% sold, like, I could potentially have gone into industry and would have been also like a valid path that would have been probably pretty fun, which I like.
Well, cool. Well, is there anything else you wanted to put a final bow on this episode about the senior send-off? Is there anything you wanted to say before we wrap up? I mean, again, we still have our final episode next week. But
I mean, I think, like, one thing to keep in mind with this episode is I could totally see how, like, from an outside perspective, like, listening to this episode, you'd be like, wow, the seniors, like, like you listen to like the internships and stuff that they did, you're like, wow, they had that all that's figured out. But it's really just like, just want to emphasize, it really is an exploration. And a lot of us really were flexible. And I think you don't have to have everything figured out. And I think a lot of sources of imposter syndrome in college come from being like worried that you don't have everything figured out. And like all of us went through that. And like you might consider like people on this podcast to be like people you strive to be upon graduation.
Right.
And I think you totally can. You just have to like follow your own path.
I agree. And I think that's an excellent way to end this out. Oftentimes, students will discuss how intimidating hearing some of these stories are. And I think what's important to understand is that everything was a journey, and put yourself out there. Once you put yourself out there and you try stuff, it all works out in the same way. And I point that out with every senior as they come through here. It's like, look what you've done. You've done everything that these other people that you used to idolize did and more, and you made your own path. Case in point, with the podcast, you were so intimidated about Audrey being such a great host, but I mean, everything you've done is just on par, if not better, and it keeps getting better. So, and it's exciting to wrap up this year with you. We've got our last episode next week, and so everybody, if you are one of our 10 loyal listeners, where you don't know what to do without a Viterbi Voices podcast, keep in mind, mentally prepare yourself. There's only one more episode after this one. That will be our last episode of season 7. It's where we will say goodbye to Emily. It's a sad note, but we will introduce our brand new co-host that we've selected for next year for season 8. And maybe we might even have that person for season 9. No, we'll see. But
oh my gosh, the foreshadowing.
The foreshadowing. Dun, dun, dun. But definitely this is our last episode next week. So stay tuned. And until then, we will, you can go back and listen to an archive. If you really miss us, go back and listen to one of the other episodes, but we'll be back next week. See you, everybody. Thank you.